Welcome back to this episode of the Habs Fan Forum. I'm Ben Dankyu, and here at the Habs Fan Forum, this is where us fans get to have our voices heard. Alright, so let's talk about the Montreal Canadiens, and this week we're going to be talking about fantasy hockey. That's right, I know it's a little early, but we're getting ready to draft our fantasy lineups in the coming months. And something we can start juggling around, where we're going to pick, who we picked last year, kind of some value picks. I'm going to help you navigate the fantasy hockey waters. Before we do that, just a quick word from our sponsors. Here at the Habs Fan Forum, we're a proud part of Rocket Sports Media and the Hockey Podcast Network. We are sponsored by DraftKings, the leader in daily fantasy sports. They've paid out over $7 billion across all sports to all users. It's a lot of money. They literally make payday every day. Now you can also join the action if you download the app, use the promo code THPN, and sign up courtesy of Rocket Sports Media. So we know fantasy hockey is all about going after value, making sure you draft the right players in the right rounds. It's just as important as the players you pick. We all know that person who's drafting their the favorite player on their favorite team 5 rounds way too early. Do not be that person. Also, we have to separate actual fantasy hockey value from overall hockey player value. We know that not always the best hockey players turn into the best fantasy hockey players. So we're going to be cognizant of that. So that in mind, the Montreal Canadiens haven't necessarily been a gold mine of fantasy studs over the past few years. Last year, I think the only player rated in the top 50 was Carey Price. So average draft value in the top 50, that's going at least 5 rounds deep. That means you're not picking players early. This year, there's going to be a little bit of shift around from some players who have some potential to score a lot more points. And of course, Carey Price being injured might drop him out of that top 50. But nonetheless, it's safe to say we're not picking any Montreal Canadiens in the first 4 to 5 rounds. So let's get that out of the way early. Last year, only one Montreal Canadien actually cracked the top 25. And I think there's only 4 total who cracked the top 100, depending on, of course, your league settings. But you got Tyler Toffoli, Nick Suzuki, Jeff Petry, and Mike Hoffman, a new addition. So that's only 4 players that really in that top 100. On my team last year, I had Tyler Toffoli, Nick Suzuki, and Jeff Petry. Take a little bow. It took me all the way to second place in my league. But that being said, I got those players by finding them with good value. Tyler Toffoli, I sneakily got later in. I thought he had a chance to score some goals with this new team and be featured on a team that needed goal scoring. Nick Suzuki, I reached on a little early, but it still ended up being pretty great because I still got him way above where his average draft value was, and he ended up putting out 41 points for me. And Jeff Petry, I got him really late for what he put out. In the beginning, he was scoring like crazy, and he helped me win a lot of big weeks. So I got a lot of great value. So the question is, what are we looking for this year to get that great value from these players? All right, so I still have 3 players in my top tier, and I'm going to get to Carey Price later, so let's just focus on the skaters for now. But you got Nick Suzuki, Tyler Toffoli, and Jeff Petry. Those 3 players, you're going to have to look at their average draft positions, but I'm still going for them relatively bullishly in those, rounds 5 to 8. Hopefully I can find some value there and see how other players are drafting. But I do think Tyler Toffoli, who scored 28 goals in the regular season and was leading the Habs before he had that groin injury in the playoffs, he's still going to be on the top 2 lines. This year, one difference I'm going to see, though, is I actually do think Nick Suzuki is going to pass Tyler Toffoli in that overall point production. He's on his way up. He's a star. He's getting better and better as he keeps playing. Whereas Tyler Toffoli is kind of the player he is. With Nick Suzuki, he, to me, could be that 60, 70-point player. I'm hoping on 70, so I'm picking him in those bullish rounds as well. Jeff Petry, he's shown when he has to play up in the lineup, he was troublesome player for sure last year, up and down. But that first half of the season, he played out of the gate fire. So before any of those injuries, and keeping in mind Shea Weber's not going to be there, I'm also going bullish on Jeff Petry. And if anything, pick him, and in the first half of the season, if he's fire like he was last year, trade him for value. So those are my studs. Looking at two others that have that potential to crack this kind of stud area. We have Cole Caulfield and Mike Hoffman. With Cole Caulfield, he definitely has that potential, but you got to remember he's a rookie. He's going to have ups and downs throughout the season. I don't expect him being a 40-goal scorer. I do expect that he'll probably crack 20 goals, and he's going to have a great season. So he's in that area where I'm looking to draft him at value, but not necessarily putting him as a 40-goal scorer as some of the media outlets are doing. The other one is Mike Hoffman. This guy can score. He's had 36 goals before. Last year he had 36 points in 52 games. He can put up points, and he's going to have a feature power play role, and he's going to be on one of the top two with a young center, and he's going to be a primary goal scoring threat. So I look at him to score at least 25 goals. They're banking on 30-35. I think he's a good lock to get 20-25, and I think he'll get a lot more. But he's in that kind of fringe area. He could play up into that stud. One thing about Caulfield is he's going to get picked much higher than he probably should. And one thing about Hoffman is he's going to get picked much lower than he probably should. So I temper my expectations accordingly. So there's a few other players that are at least on my radar. I'm going to be looking at Gallagher, Kotkaniemi, and Anderson. Players who've shown potential or have scored 30 goals. Kotkaniemi, who's going to be featured in a second line role, and I'm hoping this is the year where they really put him out there with some goal scoring depth like wingers, and he gets to play the game that can get him to be a 50-60 point player. And Anderson, he actually had 17 goals, but he didn't have any assists, so he needs that consistency before he can really be a strong player. So I'm hoping he can find that consistency. With these kind of players, I'm picking them late round, trying to get them on value and seeing if they can play to the potential they have. Okay, so that brings me to my wild card of this whole video, Carey Price. He's coming off an injury. Now, and he's always been picked and ranked relatively high. Now, the interesting thing is he's coming off two poor fantasy regular seasons. Not counting his playoff performances, where he had like a 908 and like a 900. I can't remember the exact stats, but not a ton of wins, and he got injured, right? So his average draft position is probably going to drop quite a bit. So I'm looking to snag a low value or high value, low draft pick in Carey Price. I want him on my team. I'm going to kind of judge that value and see if I can grab him in the mid-round. All right, that's it for this episode of the Habs Fan Forum. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, like down below, tell your friends, share the video, and hit that bell to subscribe and get future videos. You can follow All Habs for all the best Montreal Canadiens coverage, or you can visit allhabs.net to check out more awesome content. All right, thanks again for watching. I'm Ben Dankew, and of course, woo! Go Habs, go!